Star Wars has finally sparked a war between the mainstream media journalists who have been reporting on its demise for years. Many are in tears because, well, it turns out you, I, and everyone else with common sense have been right all along. And that's not all right. With the drive-by, cancel crazy wackos in the mainstream media, we'll tell you why they're altering their Wikipedias to prove they knew it all along. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are so happy to have you here on the channel that is changing hearts and minds simply by telling the truth one video at a time. Welcome to the happiest community on YouTube. You are welcome, and free drinks are in the back. Folks, click the like button and we'll take you in the Wayback Machine to tell you what the mainstream media was saying just a few years ago and how now they're waging battles and wars against one another as they play for the control of the narrative now that Star Wars is finally in full-blown collapse. At this time, coming out of Forbes, you thought nothing was happening over the holidays. Well, you thought wrong. No, not this audience. You all know exactly what's going on every single day. But others who do not watch, they had no idea. All right, coming to us from Forbes, from Eric Kane. Disney confirms that toxic dude bros didn't kill the acolyte after all. Now, there's a very interesting thing happening, ladies and gentlemen, over at Forbes. Turns out that Eric Kane, he posts things that make sense. But there's another fella over there. What shall we say? The acolyte of Scotty, the Mendelssohn protege, Paul Tassi himself, who continues to write stuff that we cover on this channel because it's crazy. Straight out of La La Land, and we don't mean the good kind. And then Eric Kane comes out and he writes articles for Forbes that, well, they're logical. So I just want you to understand the play that's happening here. We can no longer hide it. It's a full-blown brouhaha that's broken out into the public mainstream where people can see it. We've got two writers at Forbes that completely disagree with each other, and they're at each other's proverbial throats. Here's what the article says. The Acolyte was not a hit for Disney+, but that alone doesn't speak to its quality or lack thereof. After all, Andor didn't have huge ratings either. The difference between the two? The Acolyte was riddled with bad writing, amateurish filmmaking, and didn't have a discernible audience in mind. At least not one that actually watches Star Wars. Andor, on the other hand, has the best writing in any Star Wars project and dealt with serious themes in a serious way. While it wasn't geared towards fans who only watch Star Wars for lightsaber duels, something the Acolyte had in abundance, it was targeting an older, more mature fan base that has always longed for Star Wars to grow into something more. Now, I want to say, a lot of our folks really like Andor Season 1, including Lorne, and we have to give them the deference they deserve. So I'm going to say that Andor is probably a good series. It's one of the few that I have not watched. We didn't do the watch parties for it, and it didn't have the ratings to justify a lot of coverage. So we didn't cover it. I haven't spent a lot of time with it, but the people that we know and the people that we respect say Andor was actually worth watching. It's just too bad that Star Wars is in a place where nobody's watching it. When The Acolyte was canceled, it almost felt like an admission from Disney and Lucasfilm that perhaps the franchise was being taken in an altogether wrong direction. Of course, to its many defenders in the press and on social media, you'll notice there really aren't any defenders in the public. It's just the press and social media. It's the shills and the bots, baby. There was only one acceptable answer. The Acolyte was canceled because of toxic fans on forums and social media and review bombers on Stinky Tomatoes. I noted how preposterous this line of reasoning, if you can call it that, was at the time. Now, that's Eric saying that, not me. The Acolyte simply cost far, far too much, and that investment wasn't met with huge viewership numbers like The Mandalorian or critical acclaim like Andor. Eric wrote at the time, making what he believes is a pretty simple economic observation, though it's certainly less colorful and outrageous than blaming the dude bros, which I can only assume is the name for the ecosystem in which we inhabit. Maybe now we are the dude bros. Jonas, do you consider yourself a dude bro now?
Yeah. I start my sentences with dude and I end them with bro. That's what I do, bro.
Dude, that's what I do, bro. Oh no, we're the dude bros. It's not bro anymore. That's not hip. It's bruh.
Oh,
Yeah.
two bros unite.
Yep. Now, Alan Brumman The co-chairman of Disney Entertainment has echoed this in a recent interview with Vulture. We'll read it, folks. We've read it before. We'll read it again for the purposes of this. It says, this is from Bergman, who we believe is not a staunch Kennedy ally, as opposed to Dana Walden. So as it relates to the Acolyte, we were happy with our performance, but it wasn't where we needed it to be given the cost structure of that title. Quite frankly, to go and make a Series 2. So that's the reason why we didn't do that. Skeleton Crew is in process now, so we'll see. We've seen some growth on that. I don't believe you. We'll see how that goes. We know how to go. As you said, the reviews have been excellent on Skeleton Crew, the first 2. So we'll have to see how that all plays out as it moves forward. Now, the point in all of this is that this entire article, Jonas, seems to me to be a takedown of another Forbes writer, which is Paul Tassi. So am I wrong in that, Jonas? Or is this what's playing out now, the mainstream media beginning to fight against itself, even to the point that on the same publishers, we're seeing infighting?
You know, it has been a fascinating thing to watch. First of all, Paul Tassi coming in and having this platform and contributing on a regular basis to Forbes in a way that seems very focused on not the shows themselves, but how much the audience dislikes those shows. That is a constant struggle here, where Eric Kane has slowly gotten into this space. And Eric Kane he's not a right winger by any stretch of the imagination. He's just not the kind of person who is going to gobble up this line of baloney that is coming out about, if you don't like this show, you're an istophobe or whatever. Eric Kane coming in and saying, no, we actually think there's a problem with the quality of this show. It's been a propaganda campaign that a lot of people are willing to buy in because I think it makes them feel better about liking something that other people don't like. Well, if you don't like it, you are in fact the kind of person that is prone to disliking this because you have a character flaw if you don't like the things that I like. It's a very weird and self-praising kind of argument. It's the kind of people that say, well, you're too stupid to like the thing that I don't like. In fact, you're immoral if you don't like the thing that I don't like. It's cope when it comes down to it. And I'm glad to see Eric Kane stepping in and saying, no. Monetary reasons are the reasons that we don't need another acolyte. You can't spend $300 million or whatever it's going to end up being and say that we're just going to show up and we're going to have our virtue points for this one. If you're going to spend $300 million on something to make you feel better, at least make it something that feeds the poor.
Well, I think the reason we've reached this point where the Scotty Mendelsons and the Paul Tassis can no longer take cover behind their gatekeeping narratives is because the ratings have crashed to the point that Skeleton Crew doesn't even show up. And people are saying it's fairly good. So the only answer then that can be had is that Eric Kane takes a victory lap because he's been right the whole way. And we've been saying he's right the whole way because he's saying what we're saying and what we like to be right. So we tried to do that. But then you've got the Paul Tassis of the world who they're out there with their articles now and they're claiming, that Star Wars is in a death spiral and it's the dude bros that did it. It's those darn dude bros. It's the hate. It's the venom. And poor Kathleen Kennedy is the victim. Of course, they've always been wrong, but I think Skeleton Crew is that which has exposed them because we have now reached the level where Star Wars no longer achieves a level worthy of coverage. So we're now there, right? We've predicted for, 7 years since The Last Jedi that this was a bad path to be on. And now Lucasfilm can spend $600 million on Andor Season 2, or they can spend $200 million on Skeleton Crew, or $250 to $350 million on Andor. Nobody's watching any of this. So this is literally this is $1 billion plus on the last 3 shows, and no one is showing up to see it because nobody cares. And this is the kingdom that Kathleen Kennedy rules over. It is an empty, vapid throne of nobody. Vash, are we missing anything on this?
No, I think you've pretty much covered it. I will add, though, it all really comes down to what the intent is behind the article, right? Because if Eric Kane is seeking truth and he's seeking to inform, then you have to really point to the quality of these shows as to why they're not really doing well. I think it's the only real thing that you can really kind of point to. And as Alan Bergman has pointed out, it's for the amount of money being spent, it really doesn't show up in the viewer numbers that come out in Nielsen or Disney's internal data. Now, Paul Tassi, look, if you were to go with the quality angle, right? Well, that would be an indictment of Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm and everything else. So what do you do to explain the numbers? Oh, you point to some outside factors that don't necessarily implicate Kathleen Kennedy or Lucasfilm directly. And so you really have to look at the intentions behind some of these things. Are you looking to defend Lucasfilm because maybe you like the product that they're actually producing? Or are you seeking truth and seeking to inform? That's the difference here.
Well, I'll say this too, Vash, to add to what you're pointing out here. I think we can all say now definitively, like, this narrative is finished. We listened for years as they said, it's Russian bots. It's a fringe minority on the internet.
Right.
It's haters. It's rage bait clickers, right? That's what they were claiming. They wanted everybody out there who despised The Last Jedi, who distrusted the rise of Palpatine, the people who said that the sequel trilogy was actually just a Kathleen Kennedy trilogy, self-serving to her and her alone, maybe Rian Johnson included. Those who disliked where Star Wars was going, those who said, hey, you should not have fired Gina, you should not have tried to humiliate her because she's actually a strong woman. Those who have been on our side were labeled and castawayed and castigated in a way that was inappropriate. And now Forbes is coming out and saying it has nothing to do with any of those things. It doesn't have to do with Russian bots. It doesn't have to do with misogynistic trolls. It doesn't have to do with hate campaigns. It has to do with the mainstream. The mainstream is gone, and Star Wars drove it away. Jonas, I'll give you final word on it.
When it comes down to it on a show like this, there are so many normies out there who are completely unaware of any kind of discourse around a show. There are people that I know that love Star Wars that are completely unaware of the way that channels like this talk about it, or that slightly different way of some of the channels that go hard in the paint that have no filter whatsoever on what they think of a show like The Acolyte. If they like a show enough to get online and to start thinking about what other people are saying about it, that's a whole different sphere. The failure of The Acolyte is a failure to keep the audience. The fact that the audience dropped off for what little attention they already had at the beginning of the season, to me, says that the quality was not there. And plugging your fingers in your ear and insisting that it's someone else's fault, I think we're finally, as a culture, growing past the idea of this. The propaganda that they put out there to try to say, no, it's this guy's fault. That's the reason that I don't want to watch this show. No, that just doesn't fly anymore. This is a failure from the people who run these studios. Because I don't know if you guys noticed this, there wasn't a shortage of coverage in our sphere on The Acolyte. Everyone was talking about it. So if that moves the needle to get something tanked, no, that doesn't track at all. If everyone talking about it causes it to be a success or a failure, no. The argument that we got was, if you guys are talking about it, you're going to boost it and they're just going to make more of it. No, that didn't work. And us talking about Skeleton Crew, obviously not doing enough to get people to watch it. I think this is just projection on their part, and it always has been. And it's nice to get a little validation here, to have it proven scientifically that no, it just costs too much money to make, which is really the problem, because these things strangle out all of the monetary oxygen in the room that could be put towards good Star Wars content. May we ever be so lucky.
And I want people to listen closely. I want you to pay very close attention to what I have to say here. I want you to know that if you've been on the side of saying the sequel trilogy is offensive and it's destructive, and you got to remove it because it's so bad that it damages the entire reason that I went and watched the original Star Wars movies, and that just can't be. So you got to get rid of it. Folks, I'm here to tell you, you're winning. You're winning. You've been winning. They didn't want you to know that you're winning, but you have not yet won. We must not release our foot from the accelerator. We must not get complacent. We must continue to say, this was something worthy of protecting and good stewardship and growing for future generations, that being the original Star Wars. We must say to Disney, it's not okay for you to have destroyed these archetypal heroes, and we want them back. And we'll continue, folks, because it seems like you have the back of the original characters, not the actors who played them, but the original characters who meant something to so many. And that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. We are done for now, but don't worry. Do not fret. Not yet, for more content is still coming your way 4 times a day right here on the Pro Channel. What a joy it has been to share our time with you. We hope you feel the same. Adding value to your every single day is our job here, and we take it very seriously. Folks, the only thing we ask in return is that you consider clicking that like button. Share, subscribe, click it. Stick it to those algorithms. It's the notification bell. And drop a comment right on down below. And folks, if you'd like to subscribe to our partner YouTube channels, That Park Place, That Pod Place, That Game Place, and some of those radio stations like Vacation Radio, well, we certainly would appreciate it. Until the next time we have the honor of spending time and being invited into your day, folks, we go on our way saying this: keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.